In an instant on June 16th of 2023, 5 lives were lost and many more were changed forever when Derrick Thompson barreled through a red light in an Escalade at the intersection of East Lake Street and 2nd Avenue, violently crashing into a Honda Civic that was in the intersection because it had the green light. There were 5 young women in that car who were killed instantly in this horrific crash. Sabrine Ali. She was the youngest of the group of friends at just 17 years old. She had recently graduated from Edina High School and was getting ready to go to Augsburg to study medicine. She hoped to become a physician's assistant, and she was also a diligent caretaker of the Dar el-Farouk Mosque. Siham Odawa. She was 19 years old and was a student at the University of Minnesota, where she was taking summer classes, studying computer science, and she hoped to become a software engineer. Sarah Gasadi. She was 20 years old and in her 3rd year at the University of Minnesota, Rochester, where she was a straight A student. She was studying pre-med with the hopes of becoming an orthopedic surgeon. Sugal Hersi. She was 19 years old and a student at Minneapolis Community and Technical College, and she was working to transfer to the University of Minnesota. And Salma Abdikadir. She was 20 years old and a student at St. Paul College, where she was pursuing a degree in psychology with hopes of becoming a therapist. She also taught young children about the Quran and Islamic studies at the Dar el-Farouk Mosque. These young women were all friends, and they were bright lights in their families and community, consistently described as empathetic and kind. They had been together preparing for an upcoming family wedding, running errands and having henna applied. Within the Somali community, weddings are incredibly special and sacred. I think about those young women who had just gotten their henna designs on their arms to adorn themselves before celebrating the growth of their tight-knit family. How excited they must have been to show off the intricate patterns to their loved ones. I think about the outfits they must have planned to wear, probably meticulously planning the details of their jewelry and their makeup for days. I think about the laughs they probably shared together, how full of life they likely were on that faithful night. I've watched the video a number of times, particularly the video across the street from the McDonald's. And you can't see the Escalade, but you can see the Honda Civic. And every time I watch it, in my mind, I see the Civic, and it's almost to the other side of the intersection. And there's this hope in my brain that they're going to make it to the other side. But they didn't. And that was because of Derrick Thompson. They should have made it to the wedding they were preparing to celebrate. They should still be with their loved ones. I think about their loved ones, many of whom are up here with me. How they should have been celebrating a wedding, but instead had to mourn the unthinkable loss of 5 young women with bright futures ahead of them. The actions of Derrick Thompson resulted in a tragic loss whose magnitude will forever ripple throughout our community. Earlier today, Derrick Thompson was convicted by a jury of the following charges: 5 counts of 3rd-degree murder, 5 counts of criminal vehicular homicide, culpable negligence, or gross negligence, and 5 counts of criminal vehicular homicide, leaving the scene without rendering aid. Sentencing will happen on July 24th at 10 a.m., and our office will be seeking a lengthy sentence to hold Mr. Thompson accountable and ensure he cannot hurt anyone else in our community. I want to take a moment to thank and recognize our team who worked tirelessly on this case. From our Victim Witness Services Division, Farhia Mohammed, Hoden S. Abdi, Tracy Becker, Travis Sigafus, Alam Erbab, Kiona Brooks. our lawyers and legal support staff, Dominic Matthews, who is now a judge, Kimberly Flores, James Hanneman, Paige Starkey, and Joe Paquette. Mr. Thompson repeatedly engaged in extraordinarily dangerous criminal driving conduct related to apparent large-scale drug dealing. In fact, just 6 months before this crash, Mr. Thompson was released from a California prison for fleeing police, speeding off the highway and onto city streets where he struck and severely injured a woman. Instead of learning from that tragedy and the trail of devastation that he has left in his wake, Mr. Thompson chose to drive at speeds upward of 100 miles per hour with a Glock handgun and a large amount of drugs in his vehicle. He chose to speed off the highway and blow through a red light with devastating consequences for those in his path. And he then chose to run from the scene without checking on any of the people he left behind. I've said this before and I'll say again, these were choices. There is no excuse for this type of speeding and driving without any care for the lives of others on the road. This was a heartbreaking tragedy that took the lives of 5 young women who had their whole lives ahead of them. In an instant, they were ripped from their loved ones because of Mr. Thompson's reckless and dangerous choices. His choices that day scarred many lives and affected an entire community. Mr. Thompson is being held accountable, and we will do everything we can to ensure that he can never do this again. But this is the second time in a month I've stood before you to talk about a horrific tragedy stemming from dangerous driving that was entirely preventable. And so again, I ask you not to put your own life at risk when you're in a car, and do not put others' lives at risk. Make safe driving choices and take care of your neighbors and your community.
Thank you.
Oh, here he is. Jeff Storms will speak on behalf of the family.
My name is Jeff Storms. I am very humbled that the families would even ask me to speak in light of something so extraordinary. So first, the families would like to thank the many people who helped procure justice here, be it the investigators, the prosecutors, and the jurors, and the judge for administering a very fair trial. The charges that were brought were warranted and were brave. There are many prosecutors that would not be brave enough to pursue murder charges in a case like this, but this case warranted a murder charge as exhibited by the fact that there were extraordinary pieces of evidence that the jury didn't even get to hear, but they still said that this man murdered these young girls. Now, judges show mercy often, and for anyone who ever has a loved one in front of a judge, we should pray for mercy and fairness. However, Mr. Thompson has now forced these families to go through not one, but 2 trials after having been convicted once on really the same defense. He then stood in front of a new set of jurors and forced these families to watch even more painful evidence of their loved ones. Sometimes there is time for mercy, and other times there needs to be full accountability and full justice. And the families pray that Mr. Thompson will ultimately get every single day he could possibly get. If he could get more than what's allowed under the law, they would ask for it. And believe me, they have. But not only are we talking about someone who put families through these 2 horrible trials, someone who blamed his own brother. That's not accountability. There's been no acceptance by Mr. Thompson. and no evidence that he is safe to be on our streets. And as a result, the families again pray that he gets every day he can possibly get. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll just be very brief. I think the sentiment is that, as you see behind you, probably behind this camera, this case impacted our entire community and the entire Minnesota community. Those 5 beautiful souls from the verdict that we heard today, we know that it will not bring them back, but it helps to begin the process of healing. And as someone who has visited with these families and been with these families, the resilient families who have been praying every single day for their daughters and keeping as a community together. And so I want to thank the incredible jury. I want to thank the incredible team from the Hennepin County. I want to thank everybody who played a role in this. And I want to just remind the judge and other people, Mr. Thompson committed the same crime once. He was given an opportunity to change his ways. And 6 months later, he did exactly the same thing. But this time, he cost 5 families, an entire community, to lose 5 young people who would have been so promising for all of us. So today is a day of Eid, a celebration for our community. We celebrate Dhul Hijjah. And for us to even be in this court and to even do that has been difficult. But as you can see, the family, this case meant a lot to us, and we could not properly celebrate until we heard what we heard today was guilty verdict. So I want to thank again everybody who's played a role, and I want to thank the families who have been steadfast in this process and everyone involved. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Faduma. I'm a mother of Sarah Quesade. All our mothers, 5 of us and 5 fathers, we feel relief right now. We are, we feel like it's off our shoulder, heaviness. Last night we couldn't sleep. We didn't have like heart panic, but right now we feel so much. But we're waiting for justice for many, many years that he won't be out. Still, he can call his mom and his dad from the jail and tell them he loves them. But our daughters, they were never gonna call us. They will never say, I love you. We're never gonna see them. They're laughing. We're never gonna see them. They're wedding. We're never gonna see them. Our grandchildren. I thank for the state of Minnesota that I grew up. And I thank for justice. I thank for all the sheriffs, all the police, all of us, how we are team and love for all the community of Minnesota. Be stood up for us. I really thank all of you, all our lawyers, all everybody. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, real quickly, is your last name the same? Is it
Faduma or Same Tingle.
Okay, can you spell that just so we don't get it wrong, please? I'm sorry.
F-A, F like Frank, L like Apple, D like David, U like UK, M like Mary, O like OK. W-A-R-S-A-M-E. Thank you.
My name is Yusra Ali, and I was best friends with most of the girls. It has been almost 2 years, filled with immense pain and a deep sense of injustice. Today's verdict has finally given our families a sense of relief. Still, the trial over the past 2 weeks forced us to relive the trauma and heartbreak we have carried every day. This is a bittersweet moment for us. While we are grateful for the accountability, nothing can undo the loss of Sahra, Siham, Salma, Sagat, and Sabirin. Their absence has changed the course of all of our lives. Homes are forever broken and our families are forever in pain. We believe justice will not be fully complete without the maximum sentence. Anything less would fail to reflect the magnitude of what was taken from us. As we move forward, we are committed to honoring Sahra, Siham, Salma, Sagal, and Sabirin's memories, not only by seeking justice, but by carrying their light and love with us every single day. Thank you.
Questions?
Mary, could you talk about the significance of the third-degree murder charges and what type of sentence is applicable here versus the lesser charges of vehicular homicide that you included?
So the question was about the significance of the third-degree murder and sentencing. As Paige Starkey said, actually in another room, sorry about that, we think very deeply about whether to enhance charges to third-degree murder, and there have to be special circumstances there, and in this case we felt that there were, particularly the prior crash in California where Mr. Thompson crashed into a car and severely injured a woman. The speed at which he was going, the fact that he had drugs and guns, all of those factors led to us deciding to amend the charge to be third-degree murder. Now, there will be a lot to sort out at sentencing because, as you all know too, we asked for what are called Blakely factors, and the jury found those, and so that would allow the judge to depart upward to give a greater sentence because the jury found that there were some factors here that made this particular situation more egregious. There are also 5 different victims, and so the judge could sentence consecutively as opposed to concurrently. So the fact that we went from criminal vehicular homicide to third-degree murder, and in fact 5 of those, enhances the sentence greatly.
Do you know what would the high end of the guideline be? Can you give us, we're just kind of looking for a ballpark, like is he going to get 40 years in prison, 50, 60?
It's going to depend. So we'll be getting a criminal guidelines worksheet that will lay out all the options, but ultimately it's going to be up to the judge. She could decide all of these would be consecutive. She could decide some of them will be consecutive. She could decide that we get aggravating factors. We just don't know right now. Jeff? Yeah.
Thank you. The question was about sort of the process of building this case. I think the most central thing I can say about that is that I had 2 co-counsel who there aren't words for how much of this burden they shared. And to be totally honest and practical with you, we sat down the night before I gave the closing for a couple of hours and we just kicked around everything that we thought we wanted to say. Kind of talked about the categories that we wanted to hit and how to organize those thoughts. Ultimately, in a case this long, you end up putting evidence in, you never end up putting evidence in chronologically. And so I knew I wanted to go through chronologically to just give everybody kind of a timeline. Yeah, the way we put this together was the 3 of us and also an incredible team here at the county attorney's office and with these families, organizing our evidence and putting forward the strongest case that we possibly could.
So a juror did share upstairs with reporters that he felt like the DeMarco testimony was important for them.
Yeah.
Because they needed to get past the idea that he could be the driver. Can you share some of how that came together, where he was a surprise witness to us anyway?
Yeah, I think Jeff asked me about this the other day, and I wasn't ready to answer it. So, as I think many of you have reported on, the alternative perpetrator notice, which is the legal term for a defendant who wants to blame another guy, that notice was made and filed the day of trial, which in our view was quite late. And we had prepared the case in a particular way until that was done, and then we had to shift and adjust on the fly, make many game time decisions as we went. Our staff and people behind the scenes got subpoenas out to people that we knew we now needed to testify, and DeMarco being one of them. So he's been on the radar of the case, but prior to the filing of the notice that he was going to be the person that they tried to identify as the alternative perpetrator, he wasn't as central. And so it was a lot of last minute working and shifting and adjusting to that in the background of trying to present, 10, 12 witnesses a day and 200 exhibits. So
I do want to give a shout out to the team here, because when you asked me about the third-degree murder, we anticipated that we would be able to present evidence about that prior case from California. The judge kept that out. That was her prerogative, but that's part of the difficulty of trying a case. You think you're going to have some evidence, or you don't think something's going to come up. And I just have to say, this team did a remarkable job adjusting to everything in the trial as, surprises popped up.
The family mentioned how they couldn't sleep last night as the jury decided they needed another day to deliberate. Was there any nerves or doubt that they needed more time to make this decision?
I could speak for myself. I didn't try this case, and I was kind of nervous, even though I've been around, this my entire career, and I kind of suspected the jury was struggling with the third-degree murder, because that instruction is very difficult to decipher. So not really being more tangential here, I was nervous about it. Paige, do you want to?
I don't think there are words for what the last 24 hours have felt like. I would struggle to think of a case that meant more to me personally as an attorney, as a prosecutor. This is my career. This case has hit me in the heart since the beginning. I can't speak for these guys. I didn't sleep a whole lot. I will also say, though, that this was a very thoughtful jury, and that was clear, I think, throughout the case. This was a jury who took their job very seriously, and this was a long trial with a lot of exhibits and a lot of counts. And so I wasn't personally surprised that they needed a night to sleep on it. That's reasonable, and I think it reflects their thoughtfulness and the kind of their awareness of the gravity that they brought to their job here. So we do thank them.
Thank you.